Well, CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid joins me now from Washington to break down this case. Paula, what do we know about the young woman at the center of this case?
Rena, she's only known as Jane Doe at this point, and we know that she came to the U.S. illegally last month. And as is the case, when undocumented, unaccompanied minors are apprehended, she was put in a shelter in Texas where she will remain unless she can find a sponsor. So someone here in the U.S. who is willing to take temporary custody of her while her immigration proceedings go forward, or if she is willing to voluntarily return to her home country.
So why does the government argue that she can't get an abortion?
Well, they argue that she cannot have an abortion because the government does not need to facilitate this abortion by providing her transportation to receive this abortion. Now, when she got to the shelter, she had a medical examination. She found out she was pregnant, and she said, "I want to have an abortion." And they told her, okay, first of all, you need to get a state judge's permission because we aren't able to get your parents' permission, and you're a minor. She received that permission from a state level judge. She says she has the money to do it, but the federal government says that they do not have to provide her with the transportation. They don't have to provide her with personnel or resources to give her transportation to get to where she needs to go to get this operation.
So, Paula, what are her lawyers saying?
Her lawyers argue this is an undue burden on her right to have an abortion. It was interesting, during oral arguments today, the Justice Department did not argue that she doesn't have a right, a constitutional right to this, because again, she is here illegally. They're just arguing that under the law, they do not have to provide resources. They do not have to fill out the paperwork, provide the transportation for her in this situation. The government argues that, look, you have two choices. You can either find a sponsor, get out of the shelter, and that makes this issue much less complicated, or voluntarily go back to your home country. But her lawyers point out the fact that women in prison here in the U.S., that they are allowed to go and get abortions. They also point out the fact that adults in ICE custody are also able to get an abortion, trying to undermine that argument that she has a choice here to either go back to her country or to get a sponsor.
So how much time is left, Paula, for the federal courts to make a final decision?
Well, it depends who you ask. The Justice Department says that they still have a lot of time here. They still have several weeks when she can still legally get an abortion. But her lawyers argue that every week increases the risk to her health. Now, Rena, there's a few outstanding questions. We don't know how old she is or how far into her 17th year she is when she turns 18. That's currently under seal, but it was a point of interest for the judges. And they also seemed very interested in how long it would take to get her a sponsor, to get her out of that shelter and into temporary custody, which sort of takes the courts out of this equation. So it's possible that the courts could come out and say, look, we're going to give this another 2 weeks, try to find her a sponsor.
And how common is this, Paula?
It's unclear. The Justice Department was asked, how many minors do you have in shelters in this situation who are pregnant? And they said, we just don't know. But it's a novel issue in terms of the courts. That's why it's so swiftly working its way closer and closer to the Supreme Court, because it is a novel issue and a novel argument.
Thank you for following this. Paula Reid joining us now. Thank you, Paula.